said, for Nordebek, that was a great game, but a terrible blunder in the end that lost out the match. But Maxime really played some brilliant. It's go time right now. He's been getting his warm-up on chess.com with those games going, so making sure that he's not rusty when he comes on the board.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's a tough thing because even though he's kind of seated ahead of Maxime, it's the amount of games that Maxime's been playing. I've actually got him in form. And speaking of form, Maxime has been absolutely brilliant today, and he's played all sorts of different positions: solid, quick, aggressive, attacking, and he even had a game where he didn't even castle his king and had to play some defense in that last game. So we've seen it all from him. Let's see what Hikaru brings to the table, as he doesn't go for his kind of trademark B3 systems, something a little bit more standard here, Tanya.
It's the Queen's Gambit accepted, and it is still pretty much in mainline theory, so I'm slightly surprised that Hikaru's paused here already before sort of blitzing out his moves, and he goes for a variation that does invite an early queen trade, but it's still got a lot of poison because white often has an advantage in development, trying to get a position where the knight lands on a good square. The white knight can develop itself on either c3 or find itself on c4. Aman, are you slightly unhappy that between these two speed monsters attacking aggressive players, so quickly the queens are off the board?
I'll give you that. Slightly, absolutely. I am slightly disappointed. I wanted to see more of what we saw the last game. But, sometimes you have to build up to it, and in the first games of matchups earlier today, to be fair, we saw a very similar approach. It almost feels like when you first match up against a new opponent, you do want to just play a more safe approach, see what form they're in, what form you are in, and if you get any opportunities there, and if it happens to be a draw, you go to the next one. So it kind of makes sense at this high level that we see this match start out the same way.
And now one of the ideas in these end games why Hikaru did retreat with the bishop is eventually to put it on a nicer diagonal, right? You want that f3 square for the bishop to stop Maxime from finishing his development on the queen side comfortably. Then Maxime puts pressure on the d4 knight, forcing it to fall back, and I think once the black bishop moves, I'm expecting Hikaru to put his own bishop on f3.
Yeah, and a lot of times you see this knight develop not just to c3, but to some more unusual squares, maybe to hit c4 and continue to hit that bishop. a4, a5 is another one that comes to mind, and I think long term, if you can achieve it, I know it seems far out, but f3 and e4 is really an ideal structure because you often expect this bishop to be on that square, and the f3, e4 structure is great against the knight. So I think those are going to be some of the ideas that Hikaru is considering, but obviously, lots and lots of different ideas to play for here, so curious to see what he actually decides on.
It's such a plan-rich opening, and Hikaru keeps his hand flexible. He does develop the knight. He might put the pawns, as you were mentioning. Maxime making his intentions clear. He's bought the bishop out. Eventually, he wants to perhaps put his own piece on that c6 square, trying to get it to a more active diagonal. And I'm just wondering, for Hikaru, you know him really well, do you think what happened yesterday will play any role at all, or Hikaru's mind, it is of that level of greatness where he's just completely forgotten about it?
Well, you know what? I think if it is going to play a role, I don't think it's going to play a role in this matchup. It might play a role in an eventual matchup with Magnus. I can't speak on that.
should be an easy hold.
Yeah, there's a small bit of pressure on these pawns with the move b4 that the pawn can't move to a5 and the pawn can't move to b6, and you'd never want to play e5 and station both of those pawns on light squares. So the pawns are all immobile here. We see f4. I don't think we'll see the pawn take back because handing over the outside pass pawn does not feel like the way to do it. So after king takes, king d5, bishop e4 is what is keeping that black king at bay.
And I think the point that you make is so important, that black's pawns are fixed on the queen side, but there's no good way to get to them, because the moment you move your bishop away to attack that b7 pawn, it gives you the free hand to actually put it on that dark square, to get it moving forward and then solve the problems. So yes, optically, not great, but practically very difficult to make use of.
Agreed. And that's why the evaluation is right around equal. I mean, mistakes can still be made, no doubt, and it's not to say that this is a completely routine defense, but for the players of this level, I think it will be. And bishop to h7, we see relinquishing the pressure on a6. Maxime immediately takes that moment to say, okay, let's fix these pawns back where they should be on dark squares instead.
And Hikaru, he just continues shaking his head. I think the frustration's not about the position itself as it is right now, but the way the game has played out over the last 15 or so moves. And the thing is, more pawns that come off the board, the closer you get towards draw, and in a best of two, you really want to maximize your chances with the white pieces. And once white's king does step forward, trying to put any pressure, black always has a resource of a bishop check, driving it away.
Exactly, and it should be said, neither player really wants to act here. If Maxime takes, it'll be Hikaru's king that has a bit more of claim to the board, a bit further up the board. And similarly, if Hikaru takes on e5, Maxime's going to take and be better placed for the endgame. So neither one wants to take, which is why we're kind of on this standoff.
You don't want to give the opposition to your opponent in these endgames. It might still be equal, it might still be holdable, but like you said, keeping the tension and sort of saying you want to trade, do it on my terms, and that's what they're doing so far. The clock situation, surprisingly, Hikaru down to about 2 minutes right now. But I think with the characteristic of what is happening on the board, it should be enough. Even without a minute, it's more than enough, as a draw offer is made and accepted. Game 1 ends in a draw. Maxime will get the white pieces in their final round.